Hey, Aaron, I hope you're doing well. Last week, we talked with Randall for, I think it was upwards of 20 minutes, and he had a line in there that really stood out to me when he was talking about coming to Green Bay as a 20-year-old kid and now, returning as a 30-year-old man. I know he was always mature from day one, but I'm just curious from your perspective what it's been like watching him on that journey and what you think that can do now for this football team, the totality of those experiences do for that football team in 2021.
Well, I mean, that's kind of a big question there, Wes. I think I've been closely, in his circle for a number of years now, and watched him grow and meet his beautiful, amazing wife, Ida, and have two incredibly beautiful children now. So I'd say from a personal standpoint, there's been a lot of growth. It's fun to see, your closest friends do that family chapter and get to be a pseudo uncle to those two beautiful kids, and that's a lot of fun for sure. As a player, I've just seen him progress a lot. It's fun to watch him come from a guy who was returning kicks, and obviously his first game he had a big return for a touchdown, ran the wrong route, got a touchdown. So it's a pretty good start for Randall. But he became a complete player for us when he had a really nice season in Dallas, and then obviously got hurt last year. But he's a guy who still has a lot left. I think he's in a really good headspace mentally. It's been fun to spend time with him before he moves out of my house and the wife and kids come up. We've had a good time, talking ball and catching up on life the last week or so.
Hey, Doherty.
Hey, Aaron, got a Charles Woodson question for you here. In the second half of 08, he had that toe injury, hardly practiced, yet he had one of his best seasons. I was wondering if you remember much about that. And if you do, how do you think he was able to play so well despite hardly practicing?
I don't think Wood ever needed to practice. He was one of those special players that the instincts are completely unmatched in any player I've ever played with. I mean, his ability to diagnose a play is incredible. His habits, we actually just watched a clip when he was in Oakland. We were watching a different, a scheme we've been working on, and went back to a preseason clip when he was in Oakland. And the thing that struck me watching that clip was, here's a guy older in the league, and he goes to make a tackle on Richard Rodgers, who's caught a ball over the middle. And classic Wood, he's chopping at that ball like he always did. And the amount of big plays that he made over the years was incredible, specifically from the years that he dealt with some injuries, especially 08. The thing that always struck me was every time he came in the training room, it was the old training room, wasn't as nice and glamorous as it is now, but Wood was there on a table getting treatment, watching film. And that's what he did. And I think the beauty in some of the guys that played with him during that time is the ones that really had a lot of success soaked it up. I'm talking about Tramon Williams, who had a really nice long career. Sam Shields, who became a number one lockdown corner for us, had a really nice career for us. They studied that. They watched him. They watched his habits. And that's what the best guys do and have done over my time in Green Bay is they lead with their professionalism, and they show the young guys how to do it. It might not be talking to them all the time, but pulling them under your arm and giving them a word. I know there were times where Charles did that, especially with, I think, Tramon when he was a young player, but they gave you the blueprint for how to be a professional. And that's one thing that always stuck with me in my own position was, how do I help those guys out? Not just with what I say, but the way I go about my business. Because I remember as a young player, all I did was watch Brett, all the time, how he was going about his business, how he talked in the huddle, what he did on a daily basis, what kind of film he was watching, how he watched film, and Wood led by example in that category. And I think the beauty in Charles is that he continued to grow as a leader from his first year with us in 2006 to the Super Bowl run and beyond. He was that voice in the locker room. And as a young player and a young leader and a young starter, I needed that. I needed a defensive guy. I needed a guy with stature to be able to speak up for one and talk for the team, but then to back me up. And that guy always had my back. And he really did, in conversation, in the locker room, on the field. He's just a special, special player, special guy.
Matt Schneidman.
Aaron, Mercedes was telling us the other day, he can tell when young tight ends don't truly want to learn and soak up what they can. And he said, you know what, I'm not going to give those guys free advice. Are you the same way with quarterbacks? And we know Jordan in that regard, but specifically with Kurt, like he seems like he genuinely loves being in a room with a guy like you. What have you seen from him in that regard?
Yeah, both guys. I think both guys are really curious and want to learn. J-Lo by nature is a quiet guy, and I really enjoy the way he goes about his work time. He may not ask a ton of questions, but I know he's watching. And we actually just put on, to talk about a clip again, we put on a clip from last year, again going through some install that we're putting in the next couple of days. And watching him from last year to this year, you can just see that he's been honing the craft and working on his timing and his tempo and his drops and his balance. And that's what we've been talking about a lot with Kurt, is the balance, because every step in the drop associated with the routes has an importance. It has part of it. And depending on where your weight is, it allows you to do certain things, whether you want to push off your left and kick out right, or kick back left. The hitches and the footwork and the timing and the balance and the rhythm are all tied to the balance that you have in your feet. And we're never playing really 50-50 balance on each leg. And I think that's one thing that I'm just trying to help Kurt with, is just to understand why I'm doing things. Because a lot of times, like with me when watching Brett, I could see what he was doing, but I didn't really understand why he was doing it. Like, and maybe sometimes he didn't either. He just had such incredible feel and footwork. He just kind of did things innately. For me, I've always been kind of a why guy. So I want to know, why is he doing this? And what about this is allowing him to throw the ball from a balanced platform? And so I kind of incorporated those things and my own wrinkles over the years. And I think part of the fun is passing that stuff on to guys. Not everybody's going to get it necessarily, but I enjoy passing along. That's part of it. We've had some guys over the years. It's been fun to watch them kind of morph into looking kind of like me. And I looked kind of like Brett, I think, but probably no one more than Matt Flynn. And I've talked about the room with Flynn and Graham over the years. An absolute blast. Those two guys are total wild cards and so much fun. We had some good memories over the years. It's fun to see those guys thriving and as dads now, and Graham, an offensive coordinator, probably soon to be head coach. So those relationships are really important to me. And it's fun having Kurt and J-Lo in the room.
Rob Domofsky.
Aaron, somebody snapped a picture at practice yesterday of you and Goody talking, and I'm just wondering if the communication between you guys is the same, better, worse than it was before.
Well, I think it's a work in progress for sure. I think, relationships aren't formed in a matter of a couple of days. There's time where the respect grows and the communication follows. I think the greatest relationships that you have, with your friends and loved ones, involve conversations that flow. You can not talk to a close friend for a few months and pick up right where you left off. There's no break in communication. There's no forced conversations, or you got to hit this person up because it's on your to-do list that day. It's all about wanting to have those conversations and wanting to to be in conversation like that. And we've had a couple conversations and been positive conversations.
Chris Roth.
Hey, Aaron, what are the challenges, if any, for you playing with a center who is 6'5", and how has your relationship been developing with Josh so far?
Yeah, it's been good. Like I said last week, he's definitely been a pleasant surprise. Not a surprise for most people who've been around him for OTAs, because they saw his aptitude and his the way that he bends and moves. Luckily, he's not standing straight up every play, so I can probably still see around him or over him at times. He has good bend, a knee bend, but we're working through things. And I will say I learned from working with Corey. I think if Josh talked to Corey and Corey was like, "Hey, what's 12 like?" Is he kind of ripping your ass and getting on you a little bit? Josh would maybe describe me as a kinder, gentler quarterback at this stage. So apologies to Corey, although there's nobody I enjoy teasing and riding more than Corey Lindsley, because he is such a smart, sarcastic, witty human being. We do definitely miss his presence, but Josh has been solid for us. Communication's been good. And he's getting it. There's a lot of little intricacies in the offense, just things that aren't necessarily on the paper and aren't maybe in the OTAs. And I'm not trying to overwhelm him, but I'm trying to give him a couple of things every single day that he can think about and work on. And Matt's done a good job, I think, of putting us in situations where things come up that we haven't maybe necessarily talked about yet. And he's been great. I saw what Dave said about him yesterday. I thought that was pretty funny. But he is an athletic guy, and he's started off and had a nice camp so far.
Marcus Eversole.
Aaron, Jair's obviously been a confident guy ever since he came in, and last year he finally got the recognition as being one of the best. He had the interception yesterday. So what happened on the pick, and really from your perspective, just what makes Jair so good?
Yeah, he's an ascending player. I think every year he's gotten a little bit better. He just fell off his guy. He had man coverage on Funch and just fell off and robbed the corner out there. So I definitely didn't expect a guy in one high safety to fall off the go route, but that's what he does. He has really good instincts, and he trusts them. You look at the play in Minnesota last year, the first game of the year, he wasn't supposed to blitz, and he blitzed and made a safety. So I think you got to trust him at some point, because he really has a good feel for the game. The thing I love about Jair is he is such an interesting human being. He really is. He has interests outside of football. I think he's a very grounded human being. I think often misunderstood, because he's quiet at times, although he's got kind of this Jekyll and Hyde thing. He's a very quiet, centered, meditative human off the field. And then he's flamboyant and full on DB lockdown guy on the field. So it's a push-pull between those two things. But I really enjoy watching the player develop. And I even more enjoy getting to know the person off the field, because he's a really special guy, and I enjoy his presence in the locker room.
Aaron Nagler.
Aaron, last year we heard a lot about the work that you and Nate and Matt and Luke did as far as progressing the offense forward playbook wise. Matt said he was catching you up on some things that maybe they went through and progressed this offseason. Has there been anything you've tried to veto, or have there been any pleasant surprises in that regard?
I would say both, really. There's always things I want to veto, but I've learned to pick my battles. The great thing about Matt and I's relationship, and having Hack and Getsy in there, is the lines of communication are fantastic. We're always talking through things, and I think we're just understanding each other's personalities a little bit. Last off season was the most important thing for us, to get on the same page, do those Zoom meetings, have those extra meetings that we had, by ourselves to really go through the offense. And that was why I think we had the success that we had this year. It wasn't like a ton of things, Aaron. The offense from year 1 to 2 changed a lot, not a whole lot from 2 to 3. There's not a whole lot we wanted to change. I think we want to refine some things that we did last year, kick some plays out that didn't really fit with what we're doing, added a few things, some wrinkles, but Matt does a good job of communicating those things. We kind of throw our ego and our sensitivities out the window when we get in that room, and whatever comes out is what's in the best interest of the team. So it's fun. I enjoy those conversations. I enjoy being proven wrong. I really do. I'm headstrong, but when I come in there and he goes, well, this is this, and I'll show you why. And look at this clip here. And I go, yeah, shit, that looks good. Let's do that.
Bill Huber.
Hey, Aaron, you've thrown the ball at Eric Stokes quite a bit. I'm wondering, A, is that a suggestion from the defensive staff? B, is that you wanting to see what the young guy can do? Or C, just kind of the way it goes because he's on 17?
B and C there, Seinfeld. I think nobody on the defensive staff has specifically asked me to throw his way. I think rookies in general are going to get a look for sure, a little more, just because I wasn't around the OTA, so I don't know what he's all about and what he's got. And then a lot of times, he's been playing right corner. We're a right-handed, obviously I'm right-handed, so we're often in more right-handed formations. Naturally, that puts Devontae Adams, when he's playing the X, backside, and he gets the lion's share of the targets, not just in the games, but in practice as well.
Tom Silverstein,
Aaron, how much throwing did you do, particularly to receivers during the off season? And if it wasn't a lot, does that kind of say how little OTAs and mini camps really matter, given the accuracy with which you've been throwing to start out camp?
Yeah, Tom, I don't throw to a lot of receivers in the off season. We haven't had the same number of receivers at Proactive as we had in years past. There were some LA guys who were hanging out there for a while, so I didn't have a lot of receivers, but I had some great guys to throw to, and the basketball guys from CAA were working out, and I would go in the gym and do my 50 to 75 throws a day. And they every now and then want to jump in, whether it's Davion or Keon or any of those guys, they were on, they wanted to jump in and catch some balls. If not, I had my man Al Harrington in there catching some balls, thinking about playing tight end. I had Fats in there. If you don't know, you know. Or if you, what is it saying? Yeah, Fat. No, you don't know Fats either. But my man Fats was in there catching some passes for me. But I've never needed a whole lot of throwing in the off season. The reason that I asked for a pitch count, really since I hit 30 was there were times in the past, some of these, when the camp rules were different, we'd jump in and go from, if I'm throwing 50 or 60 balls a day to 150 or 180, and that's just a lot of wear and tear on the arm. So we talked about 80 throws. I didn't hit that threshold. I don't think any of the days in the first week or so. Once we get past the first week, I'm good to go. OTAs, coaches love the OTAs for sure. Vet players, I think we love our off seasons back where we're at. So that's kind of the issue. And we talked about that at collective bargaining agreement conversations in Indianapolis a few years ago. I was one of the guys who talked about cutting down the off season. Owners didn't go for it.
Mark Daniels,
Hey, Aaron, good to see you again. About the receivers that you are throwing to now, it's going to be a spirited battle, obviously, behind the top couple. And consistency is usually the thing that wins out. What are some of the hidden things that signal to you that some of these young receivers are becoming consistent, not just catching the ball, but in everything they do?
Yeah, it's a good question, Mark. I think the key is first and foremost, the alignment, and the assignment. Skill-wise, there's not a huge difference, I don't think, talent-wise, between 2 and 10 at this point, but each player who can separate themselves is going to prove that they can do one thing great, and that's what we've talked about over the years. The guys that stick, there has to be something that they do exceptional. You're talking about Marquez Valdez-Scantling. His speed is exceptional, but his growth in his assignments and his alignments and his understanding of the game has been phenomenal, to where he's a guy you just don't worry about anymore. And he has a maturity on the field, which is really fun to see. I will say, to me, it coincides with the maturity off the field. And I'm not talking about, horsing around or being, messing around. I'm talking about just an understanding of who they are, and I think there's with himself and Alan Lazard and Randall and obviously Devontae, you're talking about 4 guys who are very secure with who they are. And I think the more settled you are off the field, the more comfortable you can be on the field. And when you're comfortable, you're going to be confident. So the goal is to get those guys to stretch themselves personally, to be comfortable, to show their personality, but to be a professional in their preparation on the field. And I think that's what's going to separate those last 2, 3, 4, counting, the practice squad spots. And there's a lot of guys in the mix. Obviously bringing Funch back from being off last year. He's a big, strong, talented guy who's played at a high level before. Jawan has had a really nice off season. He looks body-wise differently. Obviously, Malik and EQ made the roster last year and made strides for us. So it's going to be interesting to see it all, how it all shakes out.
we have time for 2 more. Jason Weldy,
Hey, Aaron.
family night is obviously right around the corner, and you've talked about in the past that '08 family night and how it still crosses your mind even when you're on your way to family night, a decade later and stuff. I'm wondering though, how did that experience influence how you were with Jordan, both publicly during this offseason when there were times where you said things that were supportive of him and made it very clear it wasn't about him personally, and how you are with him in the locker room and in the quarterback room after what it was like for you 05, 06, 07, 08?
Yeah, how can you not be changed by those experiences? I mean, that definitely shaped the direction of my career, I think, both professionally and personally. And I think that was an important time of growth for me. And so I definitely harkened back to that summer at various times this year and thought about putting myself in his shoes. What's he got to be feeling? What are his emotions? How is this for him? And then I just reached out. I reached out a number of times, check on him, see how he's doing. He went through an off season or a season last year without, his sweetie. She was over in a different continent, chasing her own dreams. So wanted to check on him, how he's doing personally, and all the parts of the relationship, the friendship that are important, and also just checking where he's at mentally. I didn't, hold things from him. I let him know where I was at mentally and what I was thinking about, and hopefully he appreciated that. I just felt like that's what I would want in that situation, just to hear from the guy. And also there's a love and an appreciation and a friendship there, just like it was with me and Brett. So I wanted to make sure I checked in with him and let him know I was thinking about him, and that was important for me. And it's not going to change. I have a lot of respect and love for Jordan, and I understand it's got to be tough, what he went through. I went through it for, 2 years in the off season. Going to 06 and 07, I was the guy the entire off season, going through quarterback school and going through most of the OTAs, taking all the reps. And then here comes Farby coming back, and obviously I'm back on the bench. So thankfully I went through that, and I can understand a little bit about what he's going through. So I just try to keep that in mind the entire time.
And last one, Mike Spofford.
Hey, Aaron, I know it's real early. It's only been a few practices, but I'm just curious if anything different about Joe Barry's defense has caught your eye so far.
Yeah, there's definitely, it's definitely different. It's not really like any of the other defenses that I've faced over the years in practice, from, Jim Bates and Bob Sanders to Dom for so many years and Mike Pettin. There was a lot of carryover, especially from Dom, from Jim to Bob, very similar, quarters match teams. Dom in the early days was more crazy zone blitzing, which was really hard. But the 3-4 and the same with Mike Pettin, very similar in their match fire zone stuff and their coverages behind it. This is different. I think they're doing a good job of disguises. I think guys are playing a little more free in various spots, especially I pulled Darnell aside the other day, and there's been multiple times where I've come up on a throw and looking at a guy and kind of pulled it because I saw a flash out of my eye. I couldn't believe, what the hell was Darnell doing there? I saw him on the backside. He was playing post safety, it looked like, and then now he's coming to the backside, robbing a strike route to Devontae on the other side. So you're seeing these guys kind of run all over the place, which is definitely difficult even for an older quarterback like myself. But they still got some things to iron out for sure. But I like Joe's energy, and I like what he's brought to the defense. And it'll be nice to see us at full strength. We've had some guys out. Obviously, Kevin King's been out, and Ja's been up and down, and Z hasn't really practiced yet. So it'll be good to see us, all together. But offensively, I'm happy with where we're at right now.